Hello, y'all. How are you doing? So I'm jumping on, specifically to my YouTube followers. And firstly, if you are a new subscriber, thank you. Thank you for being here and being part of the conversation, as I like to call it. Even though I'm just talking, I really appreciate your comments and just your presence, even through the ether. But I want to talk about something specific today, and that is emotions. I have spent more than 15 years of my professional life working around emotions, but I would say I've been personally working on emotions since I was probably 20 years old. So several decades already. And I think there's a real illusion or a misconception of emotions. There is this attachment to only feel the good emotions and try not to think of the bad emotions. And that right there, the categorization of what's good and what's bad and what's right and what's wrong, that is going to be your source of suffering. Even if you feel like you're not suffering because you're like, I'm staying in positivity and joy all the time, which is wonderful. But that if there isn't the acceptance of the shadow, if you hide away from the shadow, there's always going to be this underlying, like the dark figure in the night that's chasing you, that you're like, you're gonna have nightmares about, right? There's a sense of not being at ease because there isn't the full acceptance of your entire being. We don't know peace until we've accepted all parts of our humanity. And when it comes to emotions, the analogy that I've used for since the beginning of my work is think of emotions like a color wheel. You might prefer one color over another, but you cannot say that one color is better than the other. Like, I like the color blue, but I can't say, well, blue is good and yellow is bad. Yellow is a very bad color. Like, no, I just prefer the color blue, right? So when it comes to emotions, there are some emotions that we might prefer, right? That's fine. There are some emotions that feel more pleasurable and more enjoyable, and there are some emotions that are uncomfortable and painful and maybe even scary. But they're all like, without all the color, we wouldn't have the spectrum of the vastness of, things to color and paint, right? And so if we didn't have the whole spectrum of emotions, we wouldn't have the ability to express and create art, whether it's spoken or visual or just the poetry of life and being human. And if you look at it more as there's nothing wrong with any of your emotions, but your emotions are messengers. They are here to tell you something. So if anger comes up, it's actually in service to you because it's saying, hey, you didn't pay attention to me when I was sad, so now I have to get angry, right? But I have a message for you and I need you to listen to me. The volume gets higher the more that we're not listening. And anger, for example, is kind of, you could say it's the surface level, right? And underneath that, there are deeper levels that we need to go, layers that we need to go through to actually get to the core of why am I feeling like this in the first place? What is motivating my behavior? What is motivating this feeling? And there's absolutely a place for grief. Right? There's absolutely a place for sadness and melancholy. There's absolutely a place for anger. Sometimes anger is like, hey, you're not listening to your soul and your spirit. You're going against yourself. So I'm going to get angry on your behalf because I want you to live your true, authentic self. I want you to live that life where you're true to you, or you're in a relationship that isn't feeding you anymore. It's not the right place for you to be in. So your anger might be alerting to you to like, hey, I'm not happy here right now. And I'm not talking about escapism and denial and like, I'm always one that's like, you work with and work through everything. But my point in this video is we have to get out of judgment. We have to get out of the duality of right, wrong, good, bad. All emotions have a place. They all deserve a seat at the table. They all deserve to be listened to and to be in conversation with. And this is really what emotional intelligence is it's learning the language of your emotions. And to me, the language of your emotions is actually connecting you to the language of your soul, because the soul experiences through feeling, right? So emotions are an aspect of that. And once we can understand our emotions, and once we can understand that whatever state we're feeling, we're experiencing, like, just to allow it, we naturally let go of so much unnecessary suffering. Because you might have the uncomfortable experience, the uncomfortable emotion, But the moment you judge that uncomfortable feeling or emotion, you've created unnecessary suffering. Like you were already suffering, and now you've created unnecessary suffering because you're fighting against yourself. You're in conflict with yourself. You're trying to get rid of a part of yourself. That's like saying you don't like your arm, so you're going to chop it off and throw it away. Then you're going to be without an arm, right? So all of it is about inclusion. All of it is about embracing, and we can alchemize, we can transmute. I'm not saying be angry and lash it out on other people and just be, moody all the time. It's like, no, that's actually not using the wisdom of that emotion, because we might still be suppressing it or denying it or colluding in indulging in it, but not actually listening to it. And so this is such a skill. It is such an art, and it takes time. And unfortunately, this is what we should be taught in school, and we're not. We should be taught the language of our emotions, how to be with conflict, how to communicate. And really, for me personally, I've learned that I have become such a better communicator because I understand my emotions, because I understand and can observe and witness and be without judgment what's going on for me. And so then if I can be there for myself, then I can know how to express myself, and to express myself in a way that's going to be heard by someone else, rather than like just a reaction and it's unconscious and then you get into attack, defend, right? So for me, I will always be an advocate for emotions. I think they're amazing. I think they're incredibly wise. But the work is to not let the tail wag the dog, but to be, I don't like the word control, because it's misunderstood. It's not about controlling your emotions, because that makes it sound like we're suppressing or denying, we're trying to circumvent or whatever. It's actually being engaged with our emotions so that we can hold it. So that might give us the feeling of I'm in control, but not control from fear, but control from I'm embodied fully in myself, in my authenticity. I can be with all emotions because I'm not judging them. I can hold them. I can listen to them. I can converse and interact with them. I can alchemize them. I can transmute them. I see them as working for me rather than to me or against me. Does that make sense? So, and here's the thing. People that want to be really happy and positive and always enjoy, I personally have found that the more that I accept all of my emotions, the more joyful I am. Why? Because I'm at peace with myself. And happiness to me is peace. And peace is when, whatever I'm feeling, thinking, or experiencing, it's okay. It's okay. Because I'm here with me. I accept myself. I love myself. And so then there's the curiosity. Like yesterday I had a day of feeling a little bit of melancholy. And I don't know why. Sometimes it's ours, sometimes it's collective, sometimes it's a combination. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, how do you work with melancholy?" Because she said for her it was like there was sometimes hard, like when that comes up, because it can be a strong feeling. And I responded saying, no matter what the emotion is, I've just learned to just stay with it. Just stay. Just be with it. Just breathe it, like feel it. And it's that middle path. I will always talk about the middle path. It's not about, oh, I don't want to feel this, I'm going to go into distraction, denial, like I'm happy and positive, I feel great, because that's not authentic, right? But it's also not colluding with it and going, oh God, everything's terrible and I feel so melancholic and woe is me and I'm alone. And that's also not helpful, right? It's that middle path of, okay, let me just feel this. Can I just stay with it without needing to change it? Like, okay, why is this here? I'm curious. Ooh, where do I feel it in my body? Oh, wow, that's how it feels in my heart. Okay. And the more that I stay with it, it naturally moves eventually into something. Like today, I don't feel it at all, and I didn't have a hard day because I wasn't fighting against it. When I was younger, yeah, I fought against it because I was told that it was wrong to have emotions. I never believed that, but I was told that, right? And I just find that life is so much more there's a greater ease when we're not fighting against our own humanity. And we have to understand that we were designed this way for a reason. The analogy I've used is like, you wouldn't buy a washing machine and they'd be like, well, here are all the buttons, but these over here, no, you can't use them. Then you'd be like, well, why are they part of the machine, right? Like, why just not eradicate them? Well, it's like, it wouldn't make sense, right? So the point is, if it was in our design, then there's a reason for it. But there's also a skill to not collude into the more, we can totally go into victimization, and we can create so much unnecessary suffering and go into the loop of suffering, and the victim will take us there, right? And we can drop down into that place where we're always angry, or we're always sad or depressed. And, we are alchemists at heart. But it's also equally not great to always be like, I'm positive and happy, and I'm just going to pretend like none of the bad stuff is there. I'm not going to pay attention to any of it. And those people are the people that break at some point. Or if something happens in their life, they cannot deal with the grief because they haven't dealt with their own pain. So please do not shy away from your shadow, because the irony is your shadow is the very thing that's going to liberate you. Because if you can sit in the shadow, if you can sit in the darkness and you can love it, and you can love all things that scare you and feel pain, you will forever be free, because nothing will scare you anymore. Nothing will be too painful, because you know that you can sit and be with it. And if there's one thing that might help you, when fear comes up, recognize that the only thing that fear is afraid of is fear itself. When pain comes up, recognize that it's hurting, and what it needs is not your judgment, but it needs your love. It needs a hug. What do we need when we're sad and we're lonely? We need a hug. We need to feel seen, heard, understood, accepted, loved for who we are. That's it. Our emotions are no different. And the more that we can work with our emotions in that way, the more that we come naturally into feeling authentic, feeling confident, feeling comfortable. That's what confidence is. It's just feeling comfortable with yourself, right? You can't feel comfortable if you're judging aspects of yourself and trying to get rid of aspects of yourself. Love it all, and you will find peace. You will find freedom. It's all already in us, right? So yeah, it reminds me, I use this often with relationship and attracting people, but it's Rumi's quote that says something along the lines of, you don't need to seek love, you just need to seek all the barriers that keep you from receiving that love, right? So it's no different what's going on inside of us. We have to look at the barriers that we're fighting against, that we're actually creating barriers, rather than, let me love that too. Let me hold that too, right? So just some thoughts. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. Bye.